Hello everyone, it is time for the Horror Mayhem wrap-up. So let me tell you about the horror books that I read for the month. So I just wrote down all the prompts and all the themes, and I just kind of just went in order of what I wrote down. Obviously, I did as I expected, did not complete everything, which is perfectly fine. So I'm just going to tell you about the ones that I did complete, and this is going to be pretty quick. And we'll go from there. So I did complete all of the weekly themes as far as books for the weekly themes. So number one was local horror. This one I went with an ebook titled Apocalypse Utah. I live in Utah. And this one is all, the cover gives kind of space zombie vibes, at least to me it does. So I would not say they're all zombies. A lot of these are zombie-esque, but some of them are specifically not zombies. There's ogres, there are zombies, there are other things. There are some where there's one where you're in the perspective of someone who's a zombie but doesn't realize they are changing into a zombie type of a situation, which that was interesting. I had a great time seeing all these cities that I have heard of. I have not been to all of them. Some of them I have. One city that's referenced is Park City, which, you know, that's the whole Sundance Film Festival thing. I have been to Park City just a couple of times, but obviously when I was younger, because I don't remember much about it. The one time that I do remember, I was when I was a senior in high school, so 12th grade, I joined the yearbook staff. And honestly, I actually regret that, but it is what it is. And we had to do some training, and the training took place at Park City over the summer. So we were there, didn't do any shopping or anything, just stayed in the hotel and did yearbook training. So that's my experience with Park City, is being in a hotel. Hated it. But it was fun to see these. Obviously, Salt Lake was mentioned and a couple other places as well. There's one where you're questioning if I don't know, you're just questioning what really is happening. It was just really fun. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and it was 171 pages. Number 2 for the weekly themes is movies. So this one I went with a book that was adapted into a movie, and I went with The Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. I have not seen the movie, but I do want to see the movie. I liked this one better than book 1 in the series, so I know I was on the fence after reading book 1 if I wanted to continue the series, which I am glad I continued. And if I was even going to keep the series, because I do have all 4 books in the series as of right now, yes. Unless the other 2 books like take a big downhill dip, as of right now, I'm keeping it. This one was fun. This one we're following Clarice. She goes to Hannibal Lecter for tried to get some tips because she's trying to find a serial killer. And what I found interesting, and it was the same thing in Red Dragon, it's all from the law enforcement person that you're following in law enforcement's perspective. Sometimes there's a couple different POVs. But the closer you get to the ending of the book, so more about the middle and then towards the end, you start getting POVs from the serial killer. So that is interesting, and I really enjoyed that. So Silence of the Lambs, this was fun, and I really do want to see the movie now. So I'm going to have to find out where I can watch the movie, because I do want to see the movie. So I gave this one 4 stars, and my edition was 421 pages. Weekly theme number 3 was to read a classic. For this one, I read The Exorcist by William Blatty, and this one was 378 pages. There were things in this I liked, things I didn't. Ultimately, it just was not for me. I have seen the movie, and I felt like the movie was disturbing, and the book, I felt like, because I had seen the movie so long ago, just wasn't on the same level. Granted, they're 2 completely different medias. I get that. I don't know. This is like which one do I like better? Honestly, I can't say I like the movie better than the book, nor the book better than the movie. They're both disturbing, but not, for me personally, in an enjoyable way. So I think for me, the biggest thing that pulled it down, I don't mind religious horror in books. I really don't mind it. I read a book that had religious horror in it where the priest or the father actually turned out to be into that he acted one way with the congregation, but then would, in his own life, be wanting to practice witchcraft and worship demons and Satan. That was interesting, and you obviously found that out as the story progressed, and I'm not going to tell you what book and all of that, but that type of thing I don't mind. So there was concern about possession and things, that type of religious horror. But when it comes to, it was unsettling to me because I am a religious person. In this book, there was a lot of desecration of things that are considered sacred. That was a little unsettling, but I can understand why in the book. The biggest thing that really bothered me in the movie and in the book, it is in the movie, there's a part where the girl that is possessed, and I am going to say this, she masturbates with a cross. And then that was, I did not like that. I don't see the point of that. I just don't see why that had to be in there in both formats. And then the fact that the fact too that she's like, what, 11 or 12, and then she grabs her mother's head and pushes it right in her crotch and wanting her mother to basically give her oral sex. Granted, I know she's possessed, and you do, if you're possessed, the thoughts are that you're not going to be yourself and do things that you would normally do. I get that, but those two things were so disturbing and unsettling to me. I was hoping they would not be in the book, that it was more of a theatrical element added into the movie, but they are in the book, and that just kind of tainted the experience for me, I guess. And that's me personal. If you found that entertaining, great. Just not for me. So I ended up unhauling this book. I will not be rereading it. I do have the second book because it is a duology ultimately, and the second book is called Legion. I will read it because I do have it, and I'm hoping that Legion will be able to stand on its own, because ultimately The Exorcist can stand on its own, but it is part of a series. So anyway, I personally ended up giving it 1 star. There were parts when I was reading it that I was actually just kind of bored. I felt like it just dragged on. So that's the other reason why. Just was not personally for me. It was 378 pages. Okay, week number 4, the theme was contemporary. So for this one I went with House of Leaves, another, for me personally, disappointing book. There was a lot of hype around this a while ago, and it sounded so good. Here's my problem with this one. I like learning things. However, if I'm going to be reading a nonfiction book, and this is not nonfiction, this is fiction. If I'm going to read a nonfiction book, I don't want it to give me feelings like I'm reading a textbook from school. That I struggle picking out what's important, what is not important, and I get bored very, very easily with textbook type books, and I start to feel very stupid and inadequate because I don't understand a lot of it. And House of Leaves, even though it's fiction, that is what it felt like. I felt very stupid. I felt inadequate. At times I was bored, and I think that's because it was going over my head. I DNF'd this book at around 180 pages. Now, I did read this 180 pages includes the prologue, which I did read, which I will say from what I have read, you should read the prologue. Sometimes I skip the introduction. Sometimes I skip the introduction. This one, you do need to read that. So read the introduction, and then I read a good portion of the actual book, over 150 pages. And then there's a part where it gets to one of the storylines we're following, it gets to where his mother is in a mental hospital and she is writing to her son. And so you go to this, it's a part in kind of like the appendix, except I think it's called something else, exhibit, something like that, where it's all the letters that she had written and mailed to her son. So I did read all of those letters from mother to her son. So ultimately it ended up being around 180 pages, but I was so frustrated because I felt so stupid. I just had to stop, and so I've unhauled it. Maybe at some point in the future it'll be a different time and I can get through it and enjoy it. But as of right now, I felt like, because of how it was written, I felt like I was reading a textbook back in school, and I just felt so stupid and inadequate, and I couldn't do it. So I've unhauled it. 2 storylines. You're following, so there's this one guy that's died that's written a story about a man with his wife and his children. They live in this house, and all of a sudden there's this door that appears, and there's this kind of, it's a closet, but then when they look at it again, it's turns into like a hall, and it's basically the inside of the house is bigger than the outside of the house, which is not possible. And so he's trying to figure out what's going on, and this hall goes down corridors and there's other rooms, and so they're exploring that. So he's trying to figure that out. So this man that died that wrote that story, had a friend who told his friend about it, and that friend took this book that this guy wrote. And so you're reading this guy that's reading this dead guy's story, you're reading his thoughts and his experience. So you're reading the original story about the house, and then you're getting like kind of like footnotes, and some of them are pages long, getting footnotes about this guy that's reading the story and his life experience and how it relates and his thoughts. But then you're also getting additional footnotes from various editors and things like that. It is written purposefully like it is a nonfiction book, and to me it felt like that. So definitely not for me. So it's no longer in my possession. Okay, now on to the regular prompts. I have Universal Monsters. At first I was going to read Pretty When They Collide, but then I saw that there was actually a prequel for this book, so I scratched that off. I still went with a book for Universal Monsters. I still am going with a vampire book, and went with Carmilla, the First Vampire by Amy Chu. This one was a graphic novel. I gave this one 3 stars. It was 100 pages, and it was entertaining. For me, it didn't really, there were other books about vampires that I enjoyed much more, so it just kind of felt mediocre, but it was still enjoyable. There is another book, graphic novel for this, and I will be getting the second graphic novel in this and reading it because I still had a good time with it. And that's pretty much all I can really say about this one. So I will say with this book, I liked the fact that it took place mostly in the 90s, and there were several references that I got that just took me back and was entertaining. That was my favorite part of the book. Not the vampires. It was the fact that it was in the 90s. So next was to read a graphic novel, a comic, or some sort of alternate media. For this one, I went with a Life magazine called The World's Scariest Places. 96 pages. I did give this one, for rating a magazine, a 5-star. It was fun. However, I expected more. I'm still giving it a 5-star because it was still fun and I loved the pictures. Now, for each thing, I got like maybe 3-4 paragraphs at the most for each thing. I was thinking it would say like this. There's one part where it talks about this cave that has been thought to be the entrance to hell. You get like 2 or 3 paragraphs about it, and that's it. So you're getting some very basic facts. I would have liked a whole page at least on these areas to give me a lot more information. So that's the thing, is it gave you a lot of different stuff, some haunted woods, haunted buildings, but you only got around 2 to 3, maybe 4 paragraphs of just some quick facts. But it was still fun, still very interesting. I just wanted more description. So that's pretty much all I can say. The next prompt that I was able to fulfill was an indie horror, and this one I went with Scalp by Carver Pike. Oh my gosh, I really enjoyed this one. This one was so much fun. Definitely left off in a way that it's like, this could be a series. This is a standalone, but it left off in a way that it's like it could be a series. However, my thinking with the way it left off is if it were to continue a series, you're pretty much going to be rereading the same thing over and over. So it's a good thing that it is a standalone, in my opinion. It's basically about these lice that turn you into a zombie. That's pretty much it. And I had fun, and it was just kind of and these zombie lice things do not discriminate among species. Humans, bears, deer, raccoons. Yeah. So if you have hair, if you're bald, it'll still find other hair. There is one scene where some people were having sex, and so they're naked. One of them gets it on the head, the other one gets it on their pubic hair. So they're not going to care. As long as they can get hair, they're going to go for you. So yeah, I ended up giving this one 5 stars. It was fun. The next prompt I fulfilled was personal horror or phobia. I went with Below Deck series. It's a collection of books. My understanding is they follow the same characters, but they are completely different situations. Nothing interconnects as far as plot or story except for character names. This specific Below Deck one was called Mermaids. This is written by Matt Shaw. I give this one 4 stars. It was 118 pages. You have this group of people that work on a yacht, and then you have this group of people that are related to this very wealthy person who decides to purchase this package deal where they go on this yacht and kind of go around the waters and stuff. Somewhere along the line, they find someone floating in the water. Turns out this is a mermaid, hence the Mermaids of the title. And then things start to happen. People are not in their right minds. And I'm going to leave it at that. So when the mermaid is found, bad things start to happen. And I ended up giving that one 4 stars, and it was 118 pages. It was fun. The next one I was able to fulfill was Killer Animals. For this one, I went with The Hunted Tribe, book number 1, Declaration of War by Roma Gray. The killer animal part, they are called Grishla in this, and in this one they take the place of what we have called and it refers to Jurassic Park, the book, or the movie, actually, Jurassic Park the movie. It refers to that a lot, saying that these dinosaurs resemble what in Jurassic Park is called the Velociraptor, but they're actually called something else. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But killer animal is these Grishla Velociraptor type creatures. They're after a specific indigenous tribe called the Donaki. I know I'm saying that wrong, but this particular one I got from my library book sale, and it's labeled just as fiction, which means this one would be in the adult section, but this is more young adult, I would say. Kind of like 17, 18-year-old, but still not quite on the adult level. Follows a couple different POVs. You're questioning whether something is really happening or if someone is in a psychotic break and having hallucinations, and is it that? So, but it was fun. It was a great time. I had a good time with it. I gave this one 4 stars, 269 pages, and I know I'm being very brief with these. I just don't want this to be a super long wrap-up. So I do recommend this. There is a prequel to this called Jurassic Jackaroo, and then there is a book number 2, obviously, where this is book 1 in a series. So, yeah. The next prompt I was able to fulfill was Evil Children. This one only has 1 evil child in it, but I read Sour Candy by Kealan Patrick Burke. 74 pages of 5-star goodness. Oh man, this was so much fun. A lot of body horror in this, and I really like body horror. And it's body horror in the fact that it's like vomiting and teeth falling out. And I have had several dreams where I have teeth falling out. So it was great. So this guy goes to the store. He's gonna go pick up some stuff from like Walmart for he and his girlfriend. And then he ends up getting into a accident, and then all of a sudden they're saying you have this son at home where he didn't before, and things go from there with this evil child. So yeah. And we'll just leave it at that because it is so short. I don't want to spoil anything on it. Next, and that's all of the prompts I was able to fulfill. However, I did read 3 other horror books. I read Maynard's House by Herman Raucher, 272 pages. For me, this left me with a ton of questions, with unanswered questions, and I like when a lot of stuff gets wrapped up. I don't like feeling like I didn't get any answers at all in a book. I ended up giving it 2 stars. It started out strong but ended weak type of a situation. Questions is something really happening? Is it all in this guy's head, or is he having hallucinations? Is someone playing a very dirty joke on him? There were just so many, and those are just some of the questions and some of these you do get answers to, some of them you don't. There's a lot more questions that I had and that just weren't answered. And so because there were too many questions in my mind that weren't answered, I only ended up feeling like this one was a 2-star. Next, I also read Bloodwalker by L.X. Cain. This takes place at a circus, mostly in Romania. I gave this one 4 stars, 280 pages. You have children going missing, body parts of said children going gone. So big trigger warning for talk of and mentions of cannibalism regarding children. And I'm going to leave it at that. Yeah, this was fun. I gave this one 4 stars. It was just really fun. Just a fun horror book. And the last horror book that I read for the month is a manga, and I read Derserter by Junji Ito. This is a collection of short horror stories, so that's really all I can say about it because they are short stories. I gave this one ultimately 4 stars. I do like the work by Junji Ito, and this was no exception. I had a great time with this one. 384 pages for this particular manga. So, altogether for Horror Mayhem, I read 3,051 pages. Today, as of filming this, is the 31st. I did finish this prior to this a couple of days ago, but I am counting overall 31 days. This worked out to be an average of about 98.5 pages per day if I did the whole 31 days. I gave one book 0 stars, one book 1 star, one book 2 stars, one book 3 stars, 6 books 4 stars, and 3 books 5 stars. That's 45 stars issued, 13 books read, so that is an average of a 3.46 star rating for Horror Mayhem for this month. I had a fun time. Let me know, did you participate in Horror Mayhem, and what was your favorite read for the month? Sour Candy is the one that sticks out to me. So that's going to be my favorite book for Horror Mayhem. If I go with the physical books, it's going to be The Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. What was your favorite book that you read for the month? Talk to me in the comment section below. And until next time, stay true to yourself and enjoy a good book. And I will talk to you later.